Looks like Season 1 of Chip Wars ended too soon. In this epilogue, let's take a second look at the 2012 review. If you're wondering,
how do you test the A6 chip?
Subscribe and keep watching. For the curious, results come from Anantech's GeekBench browser mark SunSpider and Egypt HD results. I'll save a better explanation for another Chip Wars episode. Keep in mind, these results take into account the most optimized version of iOS. A lot of bloggers were underwhelmed by Apple's announcements thanks to the leaks from the Asian supply chain. But now that the results are out, I believe the most innovative thing Apple has done in the past couple of years is vertically integrate up the supply chain to potentially become one of the biggest chip design companies in the world. Most ARM-based mobile cores use a copy license from ARM Holdings, while up until now, only Qualcomm's Snapdragon S4 used a custom core design based on the ARM instruction set architecture license. For 2012, this is the best strategy for smartphones. First, the core. When Apple introduced the iPhone 5, I assumed it just had a higher clocked Cortex A9 on a smaller fabrication process. I'm glad I was wrong.
Oops.
Apple joined Qualcomm by skipping the line of traditional mobile chip innovation.
Why would they do this?
Probably because the deeper pipelines in the Cortex A15 require more power at higher clock speeds. With LTE sucking up a lot of juice, and the goal to keep the iDevices both thin and light, Apple figured out how to improve performance without having to rely on higher clock speeds, bigger batteries, and bigger form factors. An easy way to improve core performance is to just boost clock speeds, but then you have to deal with more power consumption. Not a big problem for tablets and phablets with big batteries. But gigahertz is only a part of the performance picture. The riskier, more expensive way to improve performance involves both improving frequency and executing more instructions per cycle through unique chip architecture, like AMD outperformed Intel 10 years ago. With frequency, while the A4 and A5 cores were clocked at around 800 MHz, the A6 frequency dynamically fluctuates between 800 MHz for light loads and 1.2 GHz for heavier stuff. With architecture, like the Snapdragon's Crate, the A6 gets more done than other Cortex A9s because of its deeper pipeline. Pro tip, Anantech benchmark a 10% performance boost when you turn off cellular data activity in the iPhone 5. The chip wars game is moving from competing only on core clock speeds towards competing on custom core architecture so the processors get more done at lower frequencies. Second, let's talk memory. It looks like cache sizes have remained the same, but both the low overhead working sets of iOS 6 and the custom core design give it the best memory interface performance of 2012, according to SunSpider benchmarks. The 1GB of RAM in the A6 flows through the same dual-channel 32-bit LPDDR2 interface.
But how fast does it go?
The theoretical peak memory bandwidth utilization of the 4S is 6.4 GB per second write speeds, but in the real world, it only hits 42% of this peak. The iPhone 5 has a theoretical limit of 8.5 GB per second, but does even better by hitting 70% of its peak. On integer tests, the iPhone 5 doubles the performance of the 4S, and this matters most for snappy app performance. So overall, the memory interface is definitely improved. On the graphics side, Apple added a core to bring the total to 3 SGX 543 cores, and bumped up their clock speeds over 200 MHz, resulting in benchmark graphics performance on par with the 3rd generation iPad. Overall, the A6 GPU performs the best, except in the few cases where the A5X did better. But the recently released Snapdragon S4 with the Adreno 320 just about tied the A6 in the all-encompassing Egypt HD test. A link to Anantech's thorough review points out that the iPhone 5 outperforms the 4S by a factor of 2. To recap Chip Wars Episode 8, for smartphones, these were the results. Apple is definitely not pushing core clock speed or multitasking. The Galaxy S3 wins here. But it's definitely tailoring iOS, and now its custom A6 processor, to keep the lead in graphics and push to the top in browser performance. Today, if tech companies are going to stay ahead of the game, they need to focus not just on putting together great hardware, but also developing efficient software to make their devices sing. Apple is unique among computing companies because of its tight vertical integration that develops software to work with a particular set of hardware. With the A6, Apple pushed that integration to the next level by optimizing both the software and hardware chip designs together. But the battle ain't over. Qualcomm's 1.5 GHz quad-core Snapdragon S4 Pro was just released in the LG Optimus G, and so the battles continue. For those of you who subscribe to this channel for objective reviews, don't worry. Hit that like button if you want to see me cover next year's Cortex A15s, the PowerVR 6 series, and Mali T604 chips coming to market. For new viewers, hit that subscribe button, check the box for email notifications, and follow me on Twitter to stay up to date on videos and good tech deals.